Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, y'all, how are you doing? I wanted to pop on today and share a little bit of information with you. So I felt inspired by today's post that I made about creating safe learning environments. So that's what we'll be talking about this morning. If you are joining now, my name is Tiffany Hicks and I am the CEO, Chief Experience Officer of VRE Training Solutions. And so I just wanted to share with you guys today a little bit about creating safe learning environments. So if you're a teacher, you already know the drill. You know what it's like to be in the classroom and create a safe learning environment for your participants or for your students, which is the reason why I always say that teachers make the very best trainers. It's the easy transition for them. But for those of you who don't teach and you may have just created your own course and you want to be better at training that course and you want to get more engagement from your participants, or if you're new to the whole training game altogether and you're really just trying to learn, like, what is this training thing all about? What do I need to do? What skill sets do I need to have? I came in today to drop one tip or drop a tip about creating safe learning environments. And actually I have 3 tips. So one topic, creating safe learning environments for adults. And then here are my tips, right? So the very first thing that you want to start with is you want to be prepared. As a trainer or as an educator or facilitator, you want to make sure that you prep by reviewing your materials, right? So you want to review everything for flow so that you can see how it goes. You also want to review how the activities that you have or that you're going to create will help the learners with applying the theory that you've taught them. So why is being prepared so important? So I'm going to share with you guys something. I have noticed that, so I also do training observation and I do training certification. So that means that I observe people that train and I certify them and I give them feedback with regard to how they facilitate a class. And so one of the number one things that I have noticed is when trainers are not prepared, meaning they've not reviewed their material, they don't know the actual flow of the material, they tend to be defensive, or it can come off as they're defensive because they are not settled with the material and they're not really sure how the flow goes. So when they are challenged with a question, or if if something happens and they're not prepared for it, so let's say your video doesn't work, or let's say that you're not able in the virtual world nowadays, right? Let's say you're not able to get your camera to work. What I've noticed is a lot of times because people are not prepared on the front end, so they've not gone in to the software and done a dry run to attempt to use it to see how it works, and so essentially they're not prepared. So when they're not prepared, that kind of comes off a little bit in the classroom to the participants. Participants can tell when you are a trainer that is not prepared. Participants can tell when you are not familiar with the material, and they can also tell when you're not familiar with the technology that you're using. So in order for it to be a smooth transition or smooth, safe environment, as a trainer, you always want to make sure that you are prepared by reviewing your material, do a dry run, checking the technology and the software that you're using so that you can have less hiccups in your training environment. All right, so that's tip number 1, be prepared. Tip number 2, this is a huge one, is always encourage engagement and questions. So you want to make sure that you are always encouraging your participants to engage in your class. So what does that mean? It means that you want to be the type of trainer that creates activities that really help the participant with really digesting the material, right? So you want to always have relevant activities, and keep in mind you could have already written an activity in, but if you see that you're losing some of your participants and they're not really understanding how to dig in and apply what you've given, you got to be quick on your feet as a trainer, and you have to be flexible enough to identify when you have a participant that may be getting lost, and you need to be able to reshape your activity or or reshape your questions in order to bring them back in and help them with applying the theory that you are delivering in your class. So that means that you have to know how to ask questions, and you need to encourage the participants asking questions. That is so important, because participants will ask you a question that gives you an insight on where they may have stalled in the process of the information that you're trying to transfer. So super important that you encourage engagement, you ask questions, and you be receptive of questions. In the training environment, there is no dumb question. I know it seems like sometimes there are. You might be like, hey, I just answered that. But keep in mind that, when we're in a training environment, sometimes people bring a whole lot of baggage with them. They bring whatever happened at home. They bring whatever might be happening on their team. They actually might bring in with them the fact that they're in the training environment, but they really have something that they need to be working on for work. So they're not completely present. So for you as a trainer, your job is to make sure that we keep them present in the process by engaging them, by asking questions, and then allowing them to ask questions. And so that actually leads me to the final tip for creating a safe environment. When your participants are asking questions, it is super important that you do not devalue them when they ask a question. So back to tip number 2, where I said encourage engagement in questions. No question is a stupid question, even if you've already answered it, right? By saying to the participant, I just answered that, were you paying attention? That is not creating a safe environment. That actually is creating a hostile environment. And what happens when you devalue your participant in that way is they shut down. So learning stops happening because now they're emotional and they can't hear the information that you are delivering. So anytime a participant asks you a question, and maybe you have already gone over it, what you can do instead of devaluing them and utilizing sarcasm and, being passive aggressive by saying, I just answered that or something of that nature. Instead, what you can do is you can ask them the question. So it's called Ask the Asker. So what you can say is, tell me what you think you could do in that situation. Or you could say, or the other thing that you could do is that you can say, what do you think you could do in this situation? Or or you can also say to the participant, take a guess. Like, take a guess and tell me what you believe might be the solution for this issue. And then you kind of walk them through that and then re-deliver the information. So, super important that you allow participants to engage in a way that they feel safe to ask questions. Just by devaluing the participant's question and even their responses can really cause them to shut down in the training process. And then what happens is that they may not pick up on really important concepts that you're delivering because they're still stuck in the space where they felt devalued, or they felt like they couldn't ask a question because when they asked the question, they were made to feel less than. So just understanding that it is so important that you value every question in your training environment, because you want to look at it like, if the person is asking a lot of questions, you might want to go back and rethink your material. Are you actually answering are you really answering the questions wholeheartedly in the training? Or the other thing you can do, if you get the same questions often, then maybe you could turn that into a frequently asked question that you actually add into your training program. So those are my tips for today. My tips for today are about creating a safe and learning environment for adult learning. And so if you are coming back on the replay, those tips are: number 1, be prepared. Always make sure that you are going over your material in advance so that you come off as the expert and the authority in your material when you are in front of your class. Number 2, encourage engagement and questions. It is super important that you make the environment one where participants can learn, they can ask questions, they can engage, they can talk through what they've learned so that they can digest it and then be able to apply it. And then number 3 is so important. Do not, I repeat, do not devalue your learners. If they ask a question, make sure that you are maintaining the integrity of the class by being the leader and making sure that no matter what question they ask, whether they've asked the question before, whether someone else has asked the question, make sure that you walk them through the process of getting to the knowledge or getting to the information in a way that does not cause the learner to shut down, and also in a way that it re-engages them in the theory, the application, and the solution. So those are my tips for today. I am Tiffany Hicks, and I am the CEO, which is the Chief Experience Officer of VRE Training Solutions, and I am super excited to be you guys' guide on how to be a dope trainer. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop those questions in the comments of the live. Also, you're always welcome to follow me on any social media. We are on LinkedIn under VRE Training Solutions, and we are also on Instagram as well under VRE Training Solutions. I also have a personal page where I talk a little bit more about my entrepreneurial journey if you guys are interested, and that is I am Tiffany Hicks on Instagram. I also have a Tiffany Hicks page, business page as well on Facebook. So I'm excited to share with you guys today. Leave some comments and ask me some questions. I love interaction, and I will see you guys again soon. Until the next time, be intentional.